Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a sponsored review and demo by Donner. You can check out Donner products on their website directly at donnerdeal.com. You can also check out the links in the description that'll have various discount codes and other promotions you might be interested in checking out. But if you're not familiar with Donner, we did review one of their guitars a couple of months ago. It was their Thin Line T style guitar, and I absolutely love that thing. Like seriously, not just because it was a sponsored episode, that was very impressive for the price point. So they asked me to review their LP style guitar. They call this one the DLP-124. As with most of the electric guitars they sell, I mean, they do violins, cellos, pianos, a whole bunch of other stuff, but their guitars always come in like a kit. So we've got a nice little decent gig bag in here. It's got the carrying straps. We get a strap for the guitar in here, an instrument cable, and I actually am a fan of their Donner cables. They're a quality product in my eyes. It looks like our truss rod adjustment tools for the guitar, so let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. Oh. I don't think this is what they meant to send me. We'll go ahead and take a look at it anyways, but I'm going to review the other one. Maybe we'll review this a different time. Okay, this is a Donner bass guitar, a Donner P bass. So, this is not what I'm prepared to review and demo today, so if you guys want to see the Donner P bass, we can do that next month, but I was expecting something else. So let's go ahead and swap over to what I was expecting to review and demo. So this is the DLP. So it's their kind of Les Paul knockoff version of a guitar, except for most notably, this one is a little bit more blingier. Because for comparison's sake, this is the DLP 124S, S standing for Sunburst. They're on Donner's website for $167.99. The closest model you can compare this to within the Epiphone lineup would be like the Epiphone Special 2, which is a nice guitar. That was my very first Les Paul. The intonation was garbage on that guitar, and I had modified it with the kill switch, so if anybody has my old Epiphone Special 2, I might be interested in buying that back. But anyways, those are $229.99. They come in black, but they also have flame maple veneer tops and a trans blue and a heritage cherry sunburst. But since these guitars are actually sold as kits, once again, with your strap, your cable lead, a gig bag, all your good stuff like that, it'd be more apropos to compare this to the Les Paul Player Pack, and those are $249. So $168 sure does seem cheaper, but what makes these a little bit different is, obviously, the shape is a little bit different, you know, to get around copyright laws. And it has binding, not only on the neck, but also on the body. So it's a little bit more fancy of a guitar, to be honest. And another thing that's kind of cool is it's got a gloss body, but the neck, I was surprised to find, is actually satin. So if you like those more Player Series guitars that have the satin necks with like the more glossy finishes on the body, I think you might actually enjoy picking one of these things up. Now, obviously, I'm a Les Paul snob, so when it comes to fancy Les Pauls, I'm used to something a little bit more. I mean, this is a flat top version, and it's just some basic humbuckers in here with a Nashville-style bridge and tailpiece, so it'll be interesting to tear this thing apart and see how it plays and feels. The specs are pretty interesting, so I think the workbench segment will tell us a lot about this particular guitar. But hey, if Sunburst isn't your color, they also offer these in black. And then at one point in time, their website did list a gold and a surf green with matching headstock version. I'm not sure if those are out of stock, completely discontinued, but at one point in time, they did exist. So if you want those to come back, let Donner know. But the other nice thing about Donner is they have both USA and Canadian warehouses. So if you're up in Canada, yes, you can purchase one of these, as long as they're in stock anyways. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and throw this thing on the workbench and take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside the Donner single cut, let's go ahead and see what they've got going on here. So the pickups, they're nothing too fancy, just your standard import model pickups. It has N for neck, then B for bridge over here. Looks like these are going to be pretty hot. That bridge pickup is 15k ohms. Our neck position, half that at 8.08, and our middle would be in between there at 5.3. So, I mean, if we had to compare that to a Gibson product, it would be like the 490R, 498T series. So we'll have to see if these sound anything remotely close to that. As far as the quality of the routes, you can see them right here. They have like a Z in them for some reason. It's either that or it's an N, but it looks like a decent quality route. You could put other humbuckers in here if you chose to. But this is a bolt-on neck construction, so it's a little bit different from some of the other guitars that we've looked at before. As far as your bridge, it's the standard import style. It looks like they at least tried to set it up. It's got the normal stair-steppedness, and here's what the back looks like. And you've got the metric style studs right here that you can use to adjust your action under string tension if you'd wish. And the tailpiece does have a pretty good weight to it. And I also noticed that these metric style screws that you're supposed to be able to raise and lower your bridge, after I had decked it down, they stopped working because it just started to spin the stud within the body. You see what I mean? I'm trying to raise my bridge here, but it's just spinning the stud. So not exactly the intended design. Maybe they can work on that, or maybe I got a bad example. Or maybe the basswood is just too soft. I also noticed the strap button doesn't fully secure, like it got over tightened, but I don't think it's going to cause any issues. I mean, it's secure enough, but not as secure as I would like. The top button I did not have any issues with. Now, I know I've kind of been comparing this to like an Epiphone product, but honestly, it's probably closer to a Gretsch because it's got the more lame styled horn and the headstock is kind of Gretsch-like. So, you know, if you're into those double jets, duo jets, and similar guitars, you know, maybe something like this would be interesting to you. They should probably offer a pure white one just for that fact. But this is just a master volume, master tone layout, and then you have a 3-way toggle switch. So you don't have independent volume and tone controls. And this is a flat top. Now on their website, I was actually kind of excited because it looked like it had a comfort carve, like they shaved the body down just a little bit. That must just be a lighting thing. So just know, in person, it does not have any comfort carve right there. So I was a little bit let down by that because I thought that was a really unique, interesting spec that really changed it from all the other competitors' products. Even though normally you don't get that on a single cut style guitar anyways. But I'd say the finish actually looks pretty good. I was very shocked when I took this out of the box for the first time. Unfortunately, I didn't quite get that on camera, but I was fully expecting something that didn't look quite as bright and vibrant and had all the glossiness to it. So as far as fit and finish goes, it is a very nice looking product. And again, you do have the binding on the edge, which all other import budget level guitars, they generally don't do because that is strictly just cosmetic. But the body wood out of this is basswood. They call it African basswood on their website, and they say it's a solid body. But where things really get interesting is the neck. So it's African mahogany, they say, for the neck itself, but the fretboard, I'd never heard of this before. The fretboard is called perilla. I'm not sure if it's like a Spanish wood and it's supposed to be like perilla or something, but I'd never heard of it. Apparently it's related to mint. How they make wood out of leaves, I don't know. I don't think I fully understand this one, and Google wasn't too much help. So wood experts, tell me, what on earth is perilla? I will say, it looks good. It looks very similar to other fretboards that we've seen on import model guitars. I don't have any complaints as of right now. It is a bit more of a porous wood, so you can kind of feel it. I will say, the neck with the satin finish, I just was not expecting it. So it's taken me a bit more to get used to. I think I need to clean the back of the neck, and then it'll feel a little bit nicer to me. As far as specs go, we have 22 frets that look like similar to medium jumbo style. As far as the radius, 12 isn't quite enough, but 14 was too much, so it's probably somewhere around 13 inches. Moving on to the dimensions, 1.66 inch nut width and 2.03 by the 12th. First fret neck depth, 0.86 and 0.91 by the 12th. This is actually a very thin neck. Here it is at the first fret and the 12th fret. Definitely a slim C-shaped neck profile. Now, if you're wondering why the nut is missing, it's because this particular example wasn't glued down. Sometimes you find that on these import style guitars. What they do instead is they just put it in place and then it kind of gets secured by the truss rod cover because they bevel it at an angle in order to keep that secure. A couple of dabs of glue would fix that up real quick. As far as the headstock, you've got your truss rod in there. And with the cover on, it looks pretty nice. 3 on a side. You just got a little bump on the headstock. You can tell that the black finish is kind of covered over the binding in many areas. So that's like a small QC thing that kind of affects the look of the top of the guitar. But from the edge, you can see the beautiful binding. Like, they didn't have to add binding to the headstock. It's just kind of a nice cosmetic appointment. Alright, some notes on the factory setup. I thought the action was just a tad bit high, so I lowered it down. But unfortunately, that's with the bridge completely decked down. So that's what you have. But thankfully in this situation, it's actually a bolt-on neck, so you can kind of shimmy that around if you need to get it even lower. But I'm just going to leave it as is. I think it's comfortable the way it is set up now. But straight from the factory, I did want to lower that just a tad, and I did condition the fretboard to make it feel a little bit nicer, because it was looking a bit dried out. As far as the tuners, they function well as long as you use them as designed. Tuners you're supposed to tune up. If you try to tune down on these things, they kind of lose, like, tightness for a little bit, and then you gotta tune it back up. So as long as you're using them properly, you're not gonna have issues. But sometimes new guitarists, they don't know you're supposed to tune up and never tune down. But now we move on to the back. You don't have any type of belly cut or anything like that. It's traditional, you know, Les Paul special style. But here's what our electronics look like. Nothing too fancy, just your standard import pots and switches and capacitors in here. And you've got your output jack located on the side, one of the recessed versions. Strap buttons in your normal locations on the bottom and the top. Bolt-on neck with a Donner neck plate. And then I just now realized this. There's no finish on the back. Like I was telling you, it was a satin finish, right? But they could have also done like a black satin. But I kind of like that. It's nice to see wood on your wooden guitar, right? So they do construct these with scarf joints. That's what this is. They're joining two pieces of wood together. So the headstock topper onto the neck itself, and then that gets bolted onto the product. And our tuners are Donner branded. As far as the weight, this one weighs 7 pounds, 2.2 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. All right, let's go ahead and run through our tones of this, starting with our neck position going down to the bridge. Right out of the box, I gotta say, I was not expecting much from these pickups, but those actually sound pretty darn good at this price point. Let's go ahead and capture some additional tone samples. Yeah, I'd say that sounds pretty decent. So that neck pickup nice and deep. But the bridge, not quite as hot as I was expecting it to be. But still hot enough to have that like classic rock type sound to it. And nice chiminess in that middle. Cool, let's go ahead and try it with some distortion. it's very clear. That's always my test riff to see how clear a pickup is. If you can hear this bottom note with everything else, it's a clear pickup. So it's actually pretty good in my eyes. Now that we know about Donner's DLP model, what are my final thoughts on this thing? What they did well was the pickups. I was completely surprised by these things sounding as good as they do at this particular price point. I mean, you gotta understand, high-end pickups, a set of those are gonna cost you more than this entire setup. So you have to, put your expectations in line with that. So very pleased there. Cosmetics. This is a beautiful guitar. You get a burst shape, you get binding on it, which is just unheard of at this price point, and it just looks the part. When you look at a higher end Les Paul, this is kind of what you look at. However, I wonder if they could actually get rid of the binding and instead just like upgrade some other attributes of the guitar. Like the Perilla fretboard, it's nice, but if they could use like a higher quality rosewood, I bet they could sell more of these. Or maybe take more time to polish the frets so they're not quite as scratchy feeling. I know I talk about that on Epiphones a lot as well, but this is a very similar thing. Something else I think would be cool on future iterations of this guitar is if they do a flame maple veneer, because then you get a little bit of dancing flame action on for a very cheap price point. Now, as far as the feel of the neck, out of the box, I was not a huge fan, but I did take some polish and try to like slightly gloss it up. Like I didn't do anything too extreme, but you can see it's just a little bit more polished up now as compared to the back of the headstock. But honestly, the feel didn't change too much. It's something you kind of get used to. It's not like a regular satin finish. It's like one of the cheaper feeling ones. So you usually have to do a little bit of work to that to feel a little bit more comfortable. But after a little bit of TLC, there's nothing wrong with this guitar by any means. Now, as far as the tuning stability, I didn't have any major issues with that. Obviously, there was a little bit of intonation that could have been set a little bit better, but from the factory, it wasn't too bad. Ultimately, would I suggest getting one of these? I think it depends what you're going for. If you've got somebody that just wants to learn, they really like the Les Paul shape and they want something a little bit more beautiful, I guess you could say, yeah, definitely worth it. Now, if I had to choose between this and the semi-hollow Telecaster that I reviewed last time, the Telecaster, hands down. And that's not just, Donner's fault. It comes down to the fretboard material for me. I think the maple boards just feel better on lower end guitars because they get glossed over. But then again, I'm one of those freaks that like the glossed over fretboards to begin with. Would I choose this over one of the Epiphone Special 2s? It's been a few years since I played one of those. I think this is a much better looking guitar, and it plays and sounds about the same. In fact, I would even say it sounds almost a little bit better. But again, that's just going off of my memory. So if nothing else, I hope this video helped you make an educated decision if you want one of these LP-style Donner guitars. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out those affiliate links in the description, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. As always, if you're interested in being the next owner of one of these demo guitars, you can check them out on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. There's some links in the description.